Okay, so today I'm going to talk about counter arguments and how to listen for and make counter arguments. Before we start, I want to review chapter 1. And in chapter 1, we learned to listen and use um, transition words as signals for contrasting ideas. What this means is that I would use these words, yet, but, on the contrary, even though, however, to signal that I'm going to compare two ideas. In the same way, we also learned transition words, and signposting, and how to use them and listen to them. And these signal the organization of a text, and they also transition from one idea and example to the next point. And so they make it easier to understand a presentation. So learn to use them because they make it easier to your listeners to understand you. So they're good. And we learned, for example, sequence, transition words for sequence, such as firstly, to begin with, second, next, finally, to conclude. And this helps us to understand the organization of a text. Very important. We also learned how to use transition words to compare and contrast two ideas, like we just talked about. These are but, yet, however, on the contrary. And we also learned about transition words to signal that we are going to jump to the next idea, example, or major point. And some examples are in addition, moreover, not to mention, and furthermore. And we also learned how to finish a presentation and to signal that we are going to summarize everything we talked about. The way we do this is with these words here. All in all, to sum up, overall, in short, to summarize. And they signal to the people that we are talking to that we're just going to summarize everything we talked about. That makes it easier. All of these words make it easier to understand a presentation. But today we are going to focus on transition words for comparison and contrasting. Because we are going to talk about counter arguments. And in a debate, speakers often use counter arguments to argue against the opposing viewpoint. And speakers use those transition words to introduce a counter argument or to signal that a counter argument is the next idea. Some specific transitions are despite that, however, but that's not true. Let me talk about how counter arguments are made. First, you need to introduce the opposing view, then signal the counter argument with a transition word or phrase, and then give the counter argument. So let's just imagine that my friend and I are arguing, and my friend thinks cats are better, but I know dogs are better. And I want to argue with my friend. And so I might say, some people say cats are cuter. Here I'm introducing the opposing view. Then I want to signal that I'm going to make a counter argument. So I provide a transition word. However, and then I give the counter argument. Dogs are loyal and nice. Again, introduce the opposing view. Some people say cats are cuter. Signal that a counter argument will be made with a transition word or phrase, however, and then give the counter argument. Dogs are loyal and nice. I believe dogs are better. Some people say cats are cuter. However, dogs are loyal and nice. Let me give you another example. Despite that. Again, introduce the opposing view. Signal that a counter argument will be made with a transition word. and then give the counter argument. Here we have two people. And I argue that, imagine I'm arguing with my friend, and my friend thinks motorcycles are better. But I know cars are better. I want to argue. So I provide the opposing view. I introduce the opposing view. He says motorcycles are faster. Then I signal the counter argument with a transition word or phrase. Despite that, then I give the counter argument. Cars are safer at faster speeds. Again, introduce the opposing view. He says motorcycles are faster. Signal the counter argument with a transition word or phrase. Despite that, and give the counter argument. Cars are safer at faster speeds. I know cars are better. He says motorcycles are faster. Despite that, cars are safer at faster speeds. Now let's talk about but that's not true. But that's not true is not a transition word or a transition phrase. It's a transition sentence. See, it ends a period. So if you use it when you are writing, make sure you put a period there, okay? Now, let's talk about this. Imagine that I'm arguing with my wife about whether apples or oranges are better. And I want to state why I believe oranges are better, because they are. Now I'll introduce the opposing view. John says that apples are healthier than oranges. Signal that I'm going to make a counter argument with a transition word or phrase, but that's not true. And then provide my counter argument. Oranges have more vitamin C. So, again, introduce the opposing view. John says that apples are healthier than oranges. Signal that I'm going to make a counter argument, but that's not true. Give my counter argument. Oranges have more vitamin C. I know oranges are better. John says that apples are healthier than oranges, but that's not true. Oranges have more vitamin C. To summarize, in chapter 1, we learned to listen and use transition words as signals for contrasting ideas. But in chapter 2, we learned to listen and use these transition words as signals for counter arguments. In other words, to signal that we are going to make or that we will hear a counter argument. And the words that we learned are, however, despite that, and a transition sentence, but that's not true. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or concerns, please email me, and have a nice day.